Hi, this is Dave Perry and you're watching Retro Gaming Revival live.
Evening everyone and welcome to Retro Gaming Revival Live. Don't forget to thumbs up this video and hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with our recent upcoming streams. Literally pinching myself tonight. Got a treat for you all. A reality TV legend. So get your guesses in the chat as to who it is. We've had a few guesses already today and I can confirm that none of them were right. So keep those guesses coming. But in honour of our special guest tonight, we're forming a Retro Gaming Revival boy band. So being the person doing the intros, I see myself as, and I've crossed through Simon Carroll and put Louis Walsh.
Yeah, definitely.
On X Factor, forming this band. So first up, we have our very own Adam Ricketts with his floppy hair to go with it. It's Nintendo.
I'll take it. Hello.
Yes, it's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I couldn't find a pop star with laser eyes. So the next one who popped into my mind was Noel from Hearsay. So it's Triangle Face.
Okay, I'll take it as well.
Every boy band needs a bad boy, and he sat in his cupboard as always, and not under a car. It's our very own Brian Harvey. It's Blunners.
Brian Harvey.
And finally, we have a man who's been pestering me all day, asking if I can introduce him as the next Robbie Williams or Justin Timberlake.
What?
However, under that hat is blonde tinted highlights, so it's our H from Steps. It's Daub.
well, let's just stop there. Sorry, H from Steps. Unbelievable.
Okay, so over to you, Daubs.
Well, I'm actually extremely starstruck. I'm not going to deny it. So I've got a little intro for our guest. Okay, ladies and gents, our guest tonight, a legend in his own lunchtime. The 3,289th most famous person from Medway. The man, the myth, I've been told this, the bell end. It's the amazing Rik Waller. Come in, Rik.
Yes! We've done it!
Oh,
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, this is amazing. Oh, so excited. I'm buzzing. Absolutely buzzing. I'm shaking. Shaking.
How are you?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, not too bad. Just finished off my gaming for the evening to come and join you lot. So that's all good.
Awesome.
Amazing.
And thank you so much for answering our Daub's constant messaging asking you to come on. So thank you so much for being here this evening. And I really hope everyone in the chat's going to enjoy this stream and finding out all about your gaming history and what games you're playing today. So what we like to do with all our guests is talk about their early gaming memories. So really, what was the first game and the first console that you had?
Oh, let's have a look. First gaming memory would be being about 3 years old. My brother had an Atari 800 XL and absolutely all-time classic game, Donkey Kong. All the way.
Yes.
I had a couple of other games. I had Pole Position, Caverns of Mars. Galaxian. Can't forget Galaxian. It was I preferred that to Space Invaders. I thought it was better. So, but yeah, absolutely, Donkey Kong was my first. That was the first big influential game on me. Definitely.
Okay. And what was the first
classic?
Sorry.
How far could you get on it? Half when you get further on.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the game kind of all the levels just kept on repeating, so you never really knew how far you got unless you actually counted it. But for a 3-year-old, I could do about like 4 or 5 levels. Nothing amazing, but I could usually get through at least each level once before it got stupid. So.
Okay, and what was the first console that you remember getting yourself, and the first games that came with that?
My first console was the Atari 2600. Games I got with it were Pele's International Soccer or something. Literally just three squares, 3 squares versus 3 squares.
I've heard that's quite a hard game.
Oh, what was there? It was one about dragons. You had the green, the red, and the yellow dragon, and you had to go around and pick up keys. And it's actually got a really interesting Easter egg in there that was went unspotted for about 30 years. It was quite cool. So one of the developers actually put his name in a room that nobody got to, unless it's really specific things you have to do to unlock the room. So it's but yeah, interesting.
There was always quite a lot of. Oh, yeah.
Wow!
Yeah!
Wow!
Look
That
at
is.
that.
I mean,
Look at that.
No, John
that
Barnes.
brings back some memories.
Wow!
Brings back some memories. I was always the blue team.
How did you decide who was Pele in that? Was it just
No idea. No idea at all.
That could have almost been the magic of it, couldn't it? That could have almost been the magic of it. Nobody knew. You could have been Pele the whole time. They could have at least just put a P on him or something.
Yeah, I don't think they thought that far forward about it.
This is true.
Oh, actually, another thing, a very unpopular opinion. Maybe not though. I don't know. A friend of mine had a game that, it nearly killed the entire industry, but I used to absolutely love it, and that was E.T.
Yes,
I loved that game.
Ooh, classic.
That is divisive, isn't it? That is
It is
divisive.
because it nearly killed a whole industry. But it's. I just enjoyed it for some reason. Didn't know what the hell I was doing, but
I don't think anyone did. I think that's why it had such a bad reception. I didn't know what they were doing on it.
Yeah,
it's so infamous, though, isn't it? I mean, it's almost gone past infamy, and it is now famous.
Oh yeah,
it was AVGN's movie was about that, and the actual story behind, the creation of the video game itself as well it's amazing. Like, I forget the name of the developer, but he'd created really good games up to that point, and I think they kind of just said to him, we need a game in something. It was something ridiculous, like 16 days or 16 weeks, or it was just not long enough.
I think it was about 4 weeks or something like that, because I watched a documentary about it on Netflix.
Yes, I've seen that one.
A little while ago, and they would just say it was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, but, and was he doing it on his own as well? I don't think he had like a team, or
he literally one guy just made the whole thing, because there was so much rush to actually get the game out for Christmas.
Yep.
That it was like, right, okay, you've actually got like 4 weeks to do this. Otherwise, we miss the window, and it's miss the opportunity.
Have you still got it? That's because it's worth an absolute fortune now.
It's not actually. It's not, annoyingly. Unfortunately, I haven't got it. I haven't got any of the old consoles. They kind of got donated to charity shops when I was like 10 or something like that. As you move on, you never think any of these things are really going to be worth anything. You move on, and it's like, oh, let's give this to someone less fortunate. And then you think years later down the line, you're like, oh crap.
Been there.
Our friend of the show in the chat this evening, Essex Retro Gamer, will be messaging you after. What charity shops did you take them to all those years ago, just in case they're still?
Well, it probably
30 years later.
He'd probably push in front of the queue again, like he did with that when he got his Xbox. Push in front of the queue, push this poor little kid out of the way. I'm in front of you, mate. Get out of the way.
Right, I must
think that's-
apologise for my camera because it's very wobbly. It's
all right,
one of those
that's-
cameras that just pivots on top of whatever you put it on. So whenever I laugh, it's
That's all
hello.
good, man.
Oh.
The it's complete. So I'm going off on my first tangent already, but that idea of
go.
stuff being swept away and taken to charity shops and whatnot. Like my mother-in-law did that to my brother-in-law, who had all the original Star Wars toys, 8080s or AT-ATs, however you pronounce them, all the original little toys. It was all in quite nice nick. I think he went away to uni, came back, and yeah, all gone. And even to this day,
no.
to this day, he likes to remind her of that every Christmas, just as reminder of all of this stuff. It's like, yeah.
I mean, my friend had all of them. He was like, even at the time when he was like young teenager, he was like, these are going to be worth absolute fortune. And I was like, yeah, I don't doubt that actually.
Yeah.
You know, certainly with Star Wars, it was such a massive phenomenon and everything. You know, but of course, it's very rare to actually get like a young person who thinks of the collectible value of, certainly back in those days, to think about the collectible value of something, and that it, you know, you can appreciate it now with like Pokemon cards and stuff like that, thinking, oh, actually, you know, in 20 years time you might be able to sell this for like $500,000 for a booster box or something. It's ridiculous.
I think when you're a kid, you'd never think, you know what, I'm going to buy 2 copies and keep one in its original wrap and box and never open it and hide it away. Because you don't think like that when you're a kid, do you? You just want to open it up and play with it.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
This is it.
Rip it open as well. Rip it.
Yeah.
You don't cut the sellotape. You rip it.
Oh
And
no,
it's-
I mean, to be fair, when I was a kid, I used to keep all my boxes like pristine, and you know, always used to make sure everything was like put back in the sleeves. All my Nintendo cartridges used to go back in the sleeves and everything. And you know, it's
You didn't write on the top of them, man.
oh god, no.
You always
Oh,
find them,
God,
don't you? They were written on top.
No, absolutely not. I was a very strange child. I used to. I mean, I think because it's one of those things because something means a lot to you. It's like I was like, right, okay, got to really take care of this, because it was like, as a, you know, growing up, you know, we weren't particularly rich family, you know, so I got a new game like one for Christmas and one for birthday, and you know, anything else I had to like save up pocket money or stuff like that, you know. It was having a new game was like a big thing. You know, I just had to hope I actually got a decent one.
And back then there was the only way you could rely on it was magazines.
Demos, demo discs.
In later life, you know, things like Games Master and that kind of thing. That was basically how we got the information. And you know, sometimes you weren't lucky. You just liked the look of a game, thought the title was cool, the box art was amazing. You're like, I want that for my birthday, and it turn up and it would be absolute donkey dick, and you're just like,
I think I got fairly lucky with most of mine. I think the one game that really disappointed me was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the NES. That was
one of Ollie's favourites.
I mean, I could get to one bit, and I couldn't work out how to get up to the top of the wall. You were like on the bottom there, and you had to get up there. And I tried going through tunnels and stuff like that. I just couldn't work it out. I never got past that part.
Man, to this day, it's a game that without a cheat, I haven't actually managed to complete fully. I can get halfway through the Technodrome right at the end with like one turtle left, and then it just all goes terribly wrong. And there's specific parts in the game where you can farm a particular weapon to make life easier when you get to the Technodrome, but you've got to have at least 2 turtles on full health at the Technodrome with at least 40 of these items to get to Shredder and do it without any problems. And it's just to this day I still haven't managed to do it without a Game Genie, because it was just it is so hard, and you've got to put time into it as well. It's I will get there at some point in my lifetime though.
Well, you've been waiting 30 years, mate, so
what's another 30? It's gonna
your game skills are only going to deteriorate, so it's just going to get harder and harder.
Your reaction times.
Fucking jizz.
I actually, looking back now, I actually take great pride in the fact that I managed to beat Mega Man 2.
Oh,
because that was
yeah.
that was a difficult game. That was a really difficult game.
Yeah.
First game I ever completed though, Mario 2.
Yes.
Mario 2,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mario 2, yeah.
That was a
Classic.
great
Good game. I
Really
like
So
great
that.
game.
did you move from Atari to the NES then? Is that what you?
Right. Okay. So started off with Atari 800 XL, which is my brother's. Then obviously I had my 2600. I progressed from the 2600 to the Nintendo Entertainment System when I was about 8. And from then on, I used to do a lot of swapping with friends. Like I'd swap my like Super Nintendo, and he'd lend me his Mega CD and stuff like that. So I got to play a huge amount of games, but not necessarily owning all the consoles. So it was like I had to kind of like pick my friends well and stay friendly with them. So, but yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of thing these days with stuff going more digital. It's a bit, it's a bit of a shame because you don't get so much about swapping over and trading games and stuff like that, which I mean until the PS5 came out, I was I'd get everything on disc, but thinking more of ecologically friendly these days, thinking what's the point of having just absolutely tons of plastic everywhere. Just go digital, which is it's a shame because it kind of if everything just went digital, then in 30 years time groups like us wouldn't be getting together to talk about the games they bought as kids and kept and now the retro ones. So
Exactly.
there's a good side to it and there's a bad side to it as well, because it's like having something to hold in your hand, and the instruction booklets and stuff like that. You can't replace that with anything.
No.
Yeah,
Have you come across the Evercade console, which is bringing back physical media?
No, I haven't. I know you've got a couple of videos on the channel, so I'll have to go and have a look at that, because
do check it out.
Well, if you're watching tomorrow, you can win an Evercade VS.
Ooh,
win one.
Yeah. Can we fix it so Rick wins?
No,
it's going to look really suspicious now if I do.
You've ruined that.
Yeah, Richard wins.
Talked about swapping games. I used to really like renting games from like Blockbuster or like you could rent games out. I can remember I always used to use it as an excuse because I'd play the game absolutely loads over the weekend, and then my parents would always be like, "Oh, I've been playing the Mega Drive a lot. Do something else." Like, well, I've got to give it back on Monday, so I've got to try and complete it.
I've got to get me money for
to be solidly playing. It's like I've only got it for 3 days, and I want to complete the game. So I always used to use it as an excuse just to play way more than I probably should do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The whole game rental thing was, I got to play so many games that I wouldn't have got to play had it not been for that. Because, obviously, when you look at games these days, when you compare them now to what they used to cost, I mean, like in the mid 80s, you used to pay like 40 quid for a NES cartridge.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's, when you think about it, it's with inflation and everything. I think someone worked it out, and if in today's money, like a NES cartridge for 40 quid in the mid 80s would cost about 200 quid these days or something, and it it kind of puts everything into perspective. To say that games are expensive these days, but comparatively speaking, and considering the budgets that goes into them, it's not that bad.
No. It's also like the aftercare of it as well, isn't it? Because you get a game nowadays, it's not just like you get the disc and you get the game or you download it. They'll have like online features, and there'll be servers, and there'll be like staff that run it, and then they'll bring out daily and weekly challenges and all the extra stuff that comes with it, and then extra DLC. So a game has to have like a lifespan of a few years of like people actually running it as well, which you never would have had on like the old systems back in the day.
And then you got games like Anthem that
less said about Anthem the better. It was one of those ones, like, I mean, Harry's in the chat, but me and Harry were at work sort of chatting about it a little while back, and it was just one of these games that I missed at launch, and it was probably
Yeah.
best that I did. And
Absolutely.
then everyone was just saying how terrible it was, and then me and Harry were chatting about it, and it was like, oh, apparently they're doing something with it. They're trying to fix it. They're going to do this big, like, bring it back. And I think we both went out and bought a copy for like a £5, brand new
Yeah.
from somewhere.
Wow.
And then like about a week later, copies were appearing on eBay for like 15, 20 quid, because this rumor had gone around that they were going to be fixing Anthem.
Yeah.
And then they just sort of went, nah, and just
No.
stopped. And you're like, oh, great. So I've now just got the, to be fair, it's only a £5, so it's a very expensive coaster, really, that just sort of sits on the shelf over there with a bunch of other games. It's
Yeah.
yeah, but
I could never buy it. Yeah, I could never buy it because obviously they should have just done a Mass Effect. Like they should have just done it as Mass Effect, shouldn't they? Muck around with a new Anthem, and I really wanted it. And then when I started seeing how bad it was, I just never. And I've always wanted to play it, but I've just never ever booted it up.
It's a real shame because I mean, graphically it does suffer a little bit. It definitely needs a bit of a tinker with, but you can see it. Like, you can see what this game could have been, and it could have been amazing. It could have been so good, but it's the perfect example of the phrase, like, it had so much potential.
Oh god, yeah.
And it didn't deliver.
The thing is that it's not like they can't go back and fix it. It was just there wasn't the kind of like the incentive to.
No.
I mean, if you look at games like a game I was playing half an hour ago, No Man's Sky. I basically picked that up because it was on Game Pass.
Yep.
And I thought, do you know what? I'll give this a go. It got absolutely trashed when it released back in, I think, 2016. Yeah. And it was a game that I was really excited to get at launch because I was like, wow, this is kind of like, looks like the most comprehensive sci-fi experience you could possibly have. But I thought, well, I'll leave it. I'll leave it a couple of weeks because I wanted to see what the reaction was, and it got absolutely slated. But to be fair, last 5 years, they've actually turned it into a pretty good game.
See, I've got again, speaking of unpopular opinions, I really liked it at launch. It's a AAA game that's been, well, it's not a AAA game. It's an indie game that kind of got upsold at like E3 and conventions as a AAA game, but it wasn't. It was an indie game, and then all of a sudden it got so much attention that I think they were like, "Oh, we can slap an indie price tag on it." But as a walk-in simulator where you just explored a planet and scanned the animals and the plants and just explored a planet and would name it after you and then build up enough resources to move to the next planet.
Yeah,
I think I just played it solidly for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, and it was just the most relaxing experience I'd ever had. It was a very lonely experience because there was just no other player. They said you might meet other players, but the galaxies were so big and so constantly generating that the likelihood was basically zero. But there was something about that I really liked. It was really, I don't know, it was sort of like Last Man on Earth type thing. But
it was Marmite, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and they have made it better. They have made it better.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, you can get in parties and do multiplayer now and everything. It's really good.
Like a VR update now as well, haven't they? So you can play it in VR.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely for PlayStation. It's on. Is it? No, it's on Xbox as well, isn't it? But yeah, no, it's definitely got the PSVR set up. So
yeah. I've just seen the next caption.
Yes.
Favorite game and console.
Well, this is a two-part for me. Favorite game. I'm sorry, Final Fantasy VII.
Yes.
And
favorite.
Even now, Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think it's done an absolutely fantastic job.
Yes, it has.
adding more backstory, more lore, adding a bit more flesh to the bones. I mean, it had a lot of story to start with, but because it's obviously games were still made for like the Japanese market, and some of the translation wasn't great for the Western market and everything. And now they've actually redone it with a lot more care about it. Like the stories are a little bit easier to follow. I mean, it's still absolutely crazy as balls, but but that's. I mean, there isn't even another game that comes close. first played it when I was about 16, I think I was. It was basically, as an angsty teenager, it was just perfect game. Like you had your moody protagonist and your badass bad guy, and just characters that made you root for them.
Yeah,
because they had stories and they had background, and it's the first game I'd ever played that went into that much detail about the actual characters.
I think that's the key one for Final Fantasy VII, because I know Dorbs really doesn't like it, and that's cool.
Terrible.
But I think the story of it is what absolutely transcends that game, because if you play it now as a retro game, any retro game you play with sort of rose tinted glasses, the nostalgia spectacles, it always feels better than it does. But if you enjoy that type of gameplay, then Final Fantasy VII is still a good game to play in a modern sense. But if you don't like the gameplay style of like a turn-based, specifically JRPG, then it's never going to tick a box for you, unfortunately, no matter how good the story is. And I think that's probably the thing that really just doesn't sell it for Dorbs. It's the gameplay is just not.
The thing is, Ollie, I'm going to let you into this. I actually asked Richard to say that was his favourite game, just to wind you and Tim up. I didn't really. I'm only joking.
I tell you what, I loved that game so much that at one point, I'm not going to drop any spoilers, just in case anyone hasn't played a nearly 25-year-old game. But we all know the part we're talking about. We all know the part we're talking about. I cried like an absolute baby, and
it was hard, wasn't it?
I refused to play it for about a month because I could not believe what they had done. And it was just, how can you do this?
Soul destroying. It really was soul destroying.
To be fair, I did cry when I paid 45 quid for it.
I just might get turn-based games. I brought the South Park Stick of Truth, and that's a turn-based fighting game. I just can't figure it out.
I liked that as well.
It's kind of cool, isn't it? It's a real throwback to like Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of thing, which is solely turn-based.
Why does I really enjoy like that.
It's just like you want to get some.
Actually, the remake's not really turn-based, is it? That's a lot more.
No, the remake's incredible. It's
it's a mix of like turn-based and real time, isn't it? You kind of do a little bit of both.
Yeah, you've got to wait. You've got to wait for your actions gauge to charge up and stuff like that. But you do lots of like peripheral hits at the same time, so you're doing little bits of hits here and there and everything. And but I mean, as I say, it's it's the game that it was my first Final Fantasy game I'd ever played. Incredible introduction to the series, and I've just been a massive fan ever since. Even when they've not been great, there's still been something there that's kept me coming back.
So what would be your favourite console then? We've got your favourite game.
Oh, well, this is difficult because every console has its own merits. I mean, my first ever console, 2600, it was rubbish, but it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was. It was the first console that was like, this is mine. This is mine. This is amazing. I still love the old Atari joysticks.
Yeah,
it's just like terribly impractical, but just for nostalgia, just amazing.
Yeah.
But then you've got stuff like the NES. I mean, you've got SNES and the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube and the Switch, and they're all. I mean,
CD32.
I mean,
pushing that console hard. Man.
I mean, I've pretty much been exclusively PlayStation since the mid-90s. Never had an Xbox, but the way things are going with Game Pass, certainly for PC, it's the kind of thing where you don't need to buy the console. You can just do like a subscription, and it's I think they kind of struck gold with that. Certainly having someone who wouldn't have bought an Xbox subscribing to an Xbox subscription service. But I've had all the PlayStations, but as I say, I mean, in terms of actual solid consoles, I mean, I'd have to go Nintendo.
Yeah.
Possibly my favorite one. I do love the Switch. I really do love the Switch. But I'd say that the one that just had some ridiculously good games was the GameCube.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, it really did.
And it was pitifully underappreciated.
Yeah, I would agree.
It definitely came out in the shadow of PlayStation and Xbox, and it's one of those things that they had so much of the market share that it was brilliant, but it was yes,
Really is.
and I had a purple one. I loved
nice
purple GameCube. But yeah, and I love the fact he had like I bought the peripheral, the Game Boy player that you strapped on the bottom of it, and play all your Game Boy games. Yeah, that's the one. It was just such a solid console.
I remember going there. I went to Dixon's. I remember walking and getting this one, and and the price had dropped. So I thought, what the fuck?
Bonus.
So, because before it even came out in Europe, they dropped the price on it. So I ended up paying the same, but getting like 3 controllers and like 4 games rather than just 2 controllers and 1 game.
Yeah,
it was mad.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good argument that the GameCube controller is arguably the best controller ever made, and it's a pretty good one. I do enjoy it.
It's weird because you'd either hold the left and the right, or the right, and you kind of had to work out how it best fit your hand and everything. But it's one of those weird ones that when you look back at it, it's like, what the hell was that? But when you were using it, it just worked. It just felt good.
Talking of controllers and how they worked, Nintendo Ollie and I were in a pub in Southampton about 4 or 5 years ago with a work colleague he must have been about 23, 24 at the time, and they had a load of retro consoles lined up, and one of which was an N64. And you should have seen him try and use that controller. He was like, what do I do? Where do my hands go? I can't stretch far enough to reach them. And how impractical was that N64 controller? But people love it, and they still think it's brilliant.
I do. I've literally just chucked in the chat there, Dean telling me to have a word with myself about the GameCube controller. But for me, I think that one of the greatest controllers is the N64 controller. I mean, you hold it now and it just feels weird and not particularly great.
Yeah.
But I remember putting it in my hand for the first time and using an analog stick and thinking, this is amazing, and it revolutionized the way I played games completely. So for me, I think probably with my nostalgia goggles, my favorite controller probably is N64.
And of course, with games like Pokemon Stadium and stuff like that, it was just like you needed all those extra bits and pieces and stuff, because it was like, you needed like about 3 million buttons. It was good. Like I say, with Nintendo, I mean, even with like the Wii U and everything, it was one of those things that if you hadn't had the Wii U, then you wouldn't have had the Switch.
Yeah,
exactly.
You had to have the failure of the Wii U for them to say, actually, let's do something a little bit different. And without that, you wouldn't have had the Switch. And I think the Switch has been, since its release, it's been pretty much the best-selling console in the world every year.
Yeah, it's on the up. Like, have they breached 100 million systems yet? I know they're on the cusp of it. They're in the high 90s now. I'm sure of it. I mean, that's
the Wii U. It did have some really good games on it, and you can tell because a lot of the games they brought on the Wii U, they've brought out again on the Switch. Not a lot of people had the Wii U. So they've re-released a lot of the games.
Yeah, I think we've said before, the Wii U's biggest downside was calling it a Wii U. And I think lots of people were just like, what is it? Is
I've
it
already
is it
got
an
one.
additional to the Wii? Like I've got
Yeah.
exactly. And because so many people had a Wii, I think it just confused the market. If it was called something else, then I think it would have found itself. No, this is the new Nintendo console.
Mm.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
a lot
you're
of
right,
people
Tim.
thought it was a control pad. They didn't realize it was actually a console
Yeah.
that came with a pad. So many people thought that was it. It's like, no,
Yeah.
actually, it's a console. So it was just really badly marketed, wasn't it? People didn't
Well,
know what it
Yeah.
was.
It's like
But
the
it had
new
really
Xbox.
good games on it.
It's like the new Xbox. You had like the Xbox One X, and then the next one was called the Xbox X Series. And certainly when the X Series came out, loads of people were buying Xbox One X's because they didn't realize there was a difference. They thought it was the new console. So it was a bit.
I think there would have been a lot of disappointed kids at Christmas that year.
Another Xbox.
What's
this?
I've already got this one, Mum. But yeah, it's one of those. It is just one of those weird things, and it's like, yeah, you're right, Tim. That there's so many games on the Wii U that are so cool and so different and so interesting, and yet I still think the Nintendo Wii is going to end up becoming one of the most collectible systems because there's just hardly any of them really out there in the, as Ryan
Nintendo
likes to say,
Wii?
in the
Wii?
wild. Wii U, sorry.
I was going to
Oh,
say
that's
Wii. I
right,
saw one in
Wii,
the
yeah.
charity shop the other
No,
day.
I
But,
meant-
Wii
definitely
Fit, I
meant
would
the,
have picked it up for you if
Sorry.
you wanted it.
No, I definitely meant Wii U. I think Wii U will end up becoming one of the most collectible systems because there's just bugger all of them out there, really, as Ryan would like to say, in the wild. It's
don't use that term. That term should be
You're saying,
banned.
I was saying earlier about the N64 controller. I see somewhere online, and they were saying that middle bit with the analog and the Z button, that is basically the Wii's nunchuck. If you look at it, it is literally the nunchuck. And I remember seeing a post on it. If it was on our group, but yeah, and you think about it, it is. It's just like
it absolutely.
the analog.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
like how
couple
they
of
mix other controllers.
Yeah, I remember buying my wife a Wii U for Christmas, and it seemed, and like when it came out, and it seemed very soon after I was buying her a Switch for Christmas, both with Zelda. Both, it didn't seem like that Wii U was out long at all.
No,
4 years. Yeah. 4 years, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it's gone.
its lifespan wasn't great. I think they just saw it was just not gonna sell, not gonna do anything, and it's like, right. Let's figure this out. How can we turn this around and just straight into the Switch?
But yeah, it's just like I say, with some failures spawn great success.
Yeah.
So just be thankful for the failure of the Wii U to bring back the Switch. So but yeah, I mean, favorite consoles. Although I'm PlayStation all the way.
Yes.
There's always Nintendo will always have that special place.
Yeah.
That special place there, just like all of the all the games that I grew up with, and you got your Zelda, your Mario, your Pokemon. Just those three franchises alone is
Nintendo quality, isn't it?
Metroid.
Yeah.
Nobody
know how to make a game.
They do. No, I don't think anybody makes first-party content quite like Nintendo do, and I think a lot of people that, even if people don't buy and collect necessarily like the newer Nintendo stuff, if they buy a Switch and they only buy games for it, they will only end up with Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Metroid, and that'll be it. You might, I don't buy third-party games really for my Wii, for my Switch. Sorry, the only third-party game I've got on my Switch, looking at it, is Starlink Battle for Atlas, and the only reason I got that on that was because it came with Star Fox as a character that they just inserted to the game for the Switch, and on every other console he just wasn't available. So I think that is, looking at it, that is the only third-party game I have on the Switch.
It's like, actually, funny you should say that. My 7-year-old daughter's got 3 Switch games: Mario, Donkey Kong, and Sonic Racer. I know Sonic Racer isn't, but they're all big, well-known characters, aren't they?
Definitely.
Okay, so you mentioned Pele, and that might be the answer to this, but what's a game that nobody can beat you on? What game, you are the king of that game, and you would take on all challengers?
Do you know what? I've never really been very good at the whole one-on-one kind of thing. There was the one game that actually, I've got to tell this story because it just kind of sums me up as a teenager, really. It was a game called Sensible Soccer.
Yes.
And me and me mate on the Amiga 600.
Yes.
And me and me mates playing Sensible Soccer. And I had one friend of mine who was really cocky, really, really cocky. And he was like, "Oh yeah, well, I'll beat you, I'll beat you and everything." And I said, "Scott, I could beat you with my hands behind my back." And so I did.
Legend.
But yeah, I mean, it's just one of I think football games have always been something for me as well. I don't really play FIFA these days, but certainly like the old FIFA games like FIFA International Soccer on the Mega Drive, Sensible Soccer, Actua Soccer that came with the PlayStation.
Yeah,
that was dreadful, but it was football. And growing up literally like 3 minutes walk away from a football ground, being Gillingham Football Club, Upper Gills.
Priestfield?
Yep, that's the one. And football's always been in my blood. So I've always kind of gravitated towards more kind of like football manager games these days.
Okay.
But yeah, I've always liked football games as well.
I'm trying to think of some Gillingham players. Andy Hessenthaler, remember him?
Andy Hessenthaler was a player, then went on to be a manager, then got sacked.
Oh, okay.
He rocked up at Eastleigh, where me and Ollie live at one point as manager.
Oh, right.
A couple of years ago. And then I think he's at Dover Athletic now. But yeah,
sounds about right, yeah. But yeah, I mean, just we were to think that back in 1998, I want to say 1998, possibly we were actually in the Division 2 playoff against Man City.
Wow,
it's amazing to think that just in those few short years. I mean,
is that
game?
Penalty shootout?
No,
is that the penalty shootout where he saved a penalty?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was.
It was 2-all. It was 2-all at full time, and we lost on penalties. Yeah. But it's okay because obviously Man City went on to beat Man City, and we beat Wigan 3-1 in the playoff final the next year. So, it turned out well for us. Just a little bit later than it should have done.
Yeah.
But yeah, football in the blood.
Okay. Cool. So if you were to challenge someone, you would say a football game, maybe Sensible Soccer, Actua Soccer.
Oh, I'd have to go for Sensible Soccer. Just go for the proper. Because the thing about Sensible Soccer is that it was a football game, but it knew it was a bit silly. That was the whole point about it. It was fun because it didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
So, that's my bag.
We did a football stream during the Euro Cup, and I know pretty much less than nothing about football. I think I've played 3 football games in my life, and everybody always brings up Sensible Soccer. So I think at some point I'm gonna have to get the cartridge on the Evercade that has Sensible Soccer on it, just so I can play it and see what this is about.
Yeah, it's got fake names on it though. They can't use real names.
Yeah, they didn't get the license, did they? But the gameplay is still the same.
I wouldn't be able to tell you any of the football players' names anyway.
You know what? We should do that. We should do that as a quiz. We should do that as a quiz. Give you real players' names and fake player names. See if you can guess the right one.
Mate,
Brian,
50-50.
Brian,
that'd be an absolute guess for me.
It would be a 50-50 for me. If it was just 2 names, it would be like I'd just be guessing every time.
Yeah. See, I used to play the club teams, like in the pencil case pizza toppings. Like that was fun to me. I didn't know who the players' names were anyway, so I was like, I might as well be these players that are named after pizza toppings because that seemed like fun team to play.
I'm sure there's a Games Master team on there with like Dave Perry.
Oh, really?
I think I remember that. Yeah,
I'm sure there is like Dominic Diamond in there as well.
He had Fruit.
Oh, he doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. No, at one point he had a newspaper. He was doing a newspaper article, and he absolutely ripped me to shreds for some reason. No idea why, but oh well. Well, because I really used to love games. I loved Games Master. I probably didn't watch as much of it as I should have done, because there was always something on BBC Two. It was either Star Trek Next Generation or Quantum Leap or something like that. So I always had to fight over, what I got to watch on TV. And if I was really lucky, I'd get to see Games Master.
Yeah, it's one of those shows. I'm not sure when Ryan's got it on the or if it is a topic to talk about.
It is a topic. Yeah,
but Games Master. It's one of those shows that is. I mean, I watch it now with my son, who's basically an adult now. But even now, he can watch it and appreciate what Games Master was, and what it kind of did for gaming at the time. It was just almost a lightning in a bottle type show, really.
Well, as we're talking about Games Master, we may as well cover the return of Games Master. It's on E4 tonight at 10 p.m. for those who haven't seen it, and it's also on the E4 YouTube channel. So if you don't want to know what happens, switch off now. I've always wanted to say that.
It's like the football scores.
Yeah, exactly. I've always wanted to say that. Life complete. I thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. I thought it really stuck to its roots. The presenter was very, very good. I'd never seen or heard of him before, but I thought he was excellent. The challenges were good. The Games Master, excellent.
Trevor Mack.
Yeah, it was
Sir Trevor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Legend.
If there's only one person who could replace Patrick Moore.
It was Patrick Moore.
Patrick Moore, yeah. Who could replace Patrick Moore as a Games Master? Trevor McDonald. It's just that very dry delivery.
We each picked one, didn't we? We each picked we had a pick. I can't remember which one we picked, but I said Noel Edmonds. I can't remember what else it was.
Noel Edmonds.
I can't remember what everyone else picked, but I said
Barry from EastEnders. He was picked.
Barry,
old
Sean Williams.
Sean Williamson.
Yeah.
Somebody did call Sir Trevor, though, didn't they? Somebody did.
I think it was Mean Machine Dean. I'm sure it was Mean Machine Dean.
I think it was.
Yeah.
But it did work really quite.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant.
It just worked really well. I agree with you, Ryan. I think the presenter sort of had that little cheekiness of that Dominic Diamond sort of had in the early days, and I think he even said in his intro, and now we've got my co-hosts who are far more E4 friendly than I am.
I did,
Because his comedy is a little bit more on the nose,
looking back at the old episodes, though, you couldn't get away with some of the jokes.
The amount of
away with there. It was like
definitely not.
Because I mean, after watching the first episode last night, the next thing that came on YouTube after I watched the new Games Master was the last ever episode of Games Master, kind of the retrospective, and I'm just thinking, how did he get away with that? I mean, I know it was Channel 4 and everything, but wow.
I think one of my favourite ones was there was a kid, he just done like a challenge on a golf game and he lost, so he didn't get the Games Master Gold joystick, and he was consoling him and he just goes, "Oh, well, it's a shame that you lost. You'll have to just go home and have a few strokes by yourself in your room when you get home." They got away with that.
It is. It's just you can't. I think we spoke to Dave Perry a couple of months back, and we were chatting about it, and he summed up, I think, old Games Master for me perfectly, and he said that it was basically like punk rock. It was just it was our own thing that only if you were a gamer that you understood, and there were people that watched it and were kind of like, what is this rubbish? And that's exactly what people had when they heard punk rock. It was just it was perfectly for gamers at the time.
You know what though? He was set up.
Yeah,
what for?
Absolutely set up.
Yeah, that's what he
said.
Yeah,
I mean the game wasn't even available in the country until the year after that. He was definitely set up. Absolutely.
Ryan was very brave when we were chatting to him, and he went, "Right, we've got to do it. Let's rip it off like a Band-Aid. Mario 64. Let's talk about it." And he did. He was, he chatted to us about the whole build up to the day, to the event, and it all sort of kicking off. And it was, there was so much more to that incident than what we perceived.
Learning so much more about it now by hearing other sides of the story and hearing what people said about it.
We've had Rick Henderson on, who was also part of that challenge that day, and we've had his side of the story as well. So
it's interesting.
It is mad, interesting.
That has become infamous. It's absolutely mental. But because of things like that on the old show, it really did sort of make me a little bit like, how are they going to do this for the new show? Because part of the magic of the old show was, these sort of funny interactions and all these sort of weird things that were happening. And I think they kind of done it quite well. I think Dean's put in the chat, it's like it was a perfect blend of old and new, and it sort of paid a really good homage to old school Games Master, but with new challenges for new games. It was really
I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more gameplay for the length of the show.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like there was anything out of place. It didn't feel like it was filling. It felt like it was there, and there was purpose for it being there, and it just kind of worked. So
the only thing I found a bit weird was the adaptive music cut. That one. You know what adaptive music is, and it was a bit weird.
With Grado, he's a wrestler.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
Yeah, I didn't really. There must be an in joke there somewhere. But
I zoned out.
It's kind of like
choice of games.
Soft education.
Yeah.
Don't know anything about games. Well, here we go.
Yeah.
And clever to do
we also,
Mario. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say we had the return of Big Boy Barry as well.
Yeah,
legend.
Legend. Amazing.
See, me and Dorbs have actually spoken about this, and see, the thing was, growing up, my nickname at school was Big Boy Barry, and I didn't have a clue why, because growing up, we didn't have Sky.
No,
you know,
same for me.
You know, we had one TV and we didn't have Sky, so I didn't have an absolute clue. But actually, looking back now, knowing him for what he did after that, and for the presenting he did after that, it's like, oh yeah, of course I know him.
Yeah,
and it's great to see him back, because it's like it's that full circle thing. It's bringing everything. You know, obviously he appeared on Games Master as a contestant first time, and then of course he went off to do Games World.
Games
World. Yeah. And you know, it was just a nice. Obviously, in the show they say it's like full circle thing. So it was just really good to. I think that was just a really nice touch. It was.
It was brilliant.
It was good.
Yeah.
And hey, if they need him to have a rival for the next series, just saying. Just saying.
I'll tell you what. I'll be in touch.
Available.
I'm actually writing a sitcom, so.
Oh, nice!
I'll be in touch. I don't know. I did mention it on our stream with Alex or Big Boy Barry. So I can give you a part in that. So I'll have to think of a name. I'll have to think of a name for you. But yeah.
It's funny. I wrote a sitcom as well. It just wasn't particularly funny.
Don't worry, this isn't either.
See, the thing is, though, you know, maybe another unpopular opinion. I'm a king of unpopular opinions, but when you can call something like The Mighty Boosh comedy, I think it's open season. You know, you can do anything you want and call it comedy.
It's got some hit and miss moments for me. Things like Mighty Boosh, like,
not for me.
The entire second season, I think, is absolutely hilarious. The first season where they're in the zoo,
that wasn't as good.
It's not so great for me. And the third season where they owned the like the retro store with all the trinkets and stuff in it, again, it was too. It wasn't for me again. But because season 2 was just so weird, and it was always centered around them being in the band, and the band would always do a song, and it was generally I found the second season brilliant, but.
My housemates at university convinced me to watch The Mighty Boosh, and I watched 2 episodes of it, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And I was like, "Just didn't get it." It's like, "This is funny at all." And then I carried on watching it, and all of a sudden something just clicked. I was like, "Actually, now I think it's brilliant for some reason, but I don't know why." I went back and watched the episodes I hated, and I loved them the second time round. I can't justify why I liked it. It's just there's something quirky and weird about it. But yeah. I don't think you'll be shot down completely for saying it's not comedy.
I like quirky comedy. Taste. I like quirky comedy. You know, stuff like Python. You know, I think problem is that Python was a one-off. People try to be too much like Python because they're like, oh, we're going to be alternative. We're going to be edgy. We're going to be a little bit weird and everything. But it's just all about, you know, I think it's more important to like just. I mean, classic comedy is classic comedy. They'll always, you know, Python was different. And I think, as I say, too many people try to copy that, and it just doesn't really work. I like it. You know, you're never going to get anything more funny than fart jokes, in my opinion. So, you know,
one of my well, before we deviate back to gaming, I think one of my favorite comedies of all time is Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. It is so bizarre, and it's got so many famous people in it who really just weren't famous at the time. And I think it aired in the 90s or late 90s, and just again, people just didn't get it at all. And then it became this really big like cult thing. It did like a rerun on TV, which was very popular. It got a DVD release, and that's it. But it's got people like Matt Berry in it, and it's, oh my god, it's so funny. If anyone hasn't seen Dark Place, you need to. If you enjoy things like IT, I know someone's mentioned IT Crowd.
I tried.
Yeah, I think
IT Crowd was brilliant.
Good. Yeah,
IT Crowd brilliant. I didn't get that one. The Gareth Marenghi's Dark Place. It was just like.
Have you seen People Just Do Nothing?
No.
You need to watch that. That is one of the funniest comedy series I've ever seen. It's absolutely hilarious. It's so good.
Oh, Vicar of Dibley, absolutely.
Vicar of Dibley, yeah. I just remember the puddle. All I remember from Vicar of Dibley is a puddle.
Vicar of Dibley is one of those. It's classic, isn't it? I know you mentioned classic comedy, but for me, Vicar of Dibley is a classic British comedy that you can watch. It's almost timeless.
Well, it was just silly.
Thin Blue Line.
The British
Thin Blue Line.
Thin Blue Line.
If we're just throwing comedy shows out there, I've got to give a shout out to Community. Community is my favourite, one of my favourite TV shows.
From the Red Dwarf, definitely.
Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
Game On.
Yeah,
Game
Red
On.
Dwarf.
Oh,
Yeah,
God, Game On.
Series
Game
one.
On.
I didn't like it when they changed Matt. I didn't like it when they changed Matt.
No, I know.
That didn't work for me. So that first season of Game On is the best.
Matt rocked up in Mad Dogs on Sky One, I think, some years later.
He did, yeah, he did.
Yeah, when you're
I'm trying to
watching it,
remember the name
thinking,
of
I know
the,
him. I know him from somewhere. And but in my mind, you can't beat stuff like Bottom, The Office, Phoenix
do
Nights.
you know what actually disappoints me a little bit is the fact that I actually tried to watch Bottom a few years ago, and it didn't quite hit as much as it used to. But watching that as a teenager, it was the funniest thing on the planet. It was slapstick, and it was dirty, and it was all the sex jokes and everything. When I watched it again, it was just like a bit.
I find it quite mean-spirited. Like you're watching horrible things happen to horrible people. And I could only watch like one episode at a time. I could watch an episode, but I couldn't binge it. I couldn't watch like 3 or 4 episodes in a row. Do my head in. I could only watch I could watch an episode and enjoy it, but I'd have to watch one and stop there.
And you need to watch White Gold as well. I don't know if you've seen that.
White Gold.
Hilarious. It's about double glazing salesman.
It's just got Jay and Simon from The In-Betweeners playing Jay and Simon from The In-Betweeners.
Yeah, I think
it's got what's his name? Ed someone? Oh, I can't remember his name.
I've got a shout out to Spaced in the chat.
I was going to say Andy Davis is good. Spaced is phenomenal, and then Freak of Nature as well. Blackadder. Man,
we have all night.
This is some tangent. I tell you, this is some tangent we've gone off on.
So I'm going to bring it back.
Reel it in.
Yep.
So you did mention a game earlier, but what are you playing at the moment? What's got your attention?
At the moment, I am playing No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Back for Blood.
Nice.
It's like Left 4 Dead, isn't it?
It's basically the new Left 4 Dead game, and it's got like a card system on it, so they're like you never have 2 levels. It's not an awful lot of levels, but they always play out differently because there are like different bonus cards and cards that give you bad stuff happening. Oh, thank you. Paper, excellent. But yeah, I mean, it's basically stuff like that. I'm also trying to platinum Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm most of the way through it. It is.
It's a real tough one. I genuinely found hard mode on Final Fantasy VII Remake one of the harder gaming experiences I've had for a very long time. And it is the doing away with being able to use items.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh my god, you're using your magic up in a battle and then not being able to just, take a potion to bring your magic back up. You've got to go and farm it.
You got to think so. You got to think so much about your weapons and your gear and everything, and work out what you're going to take, how many times you've got to cast a spell in a battle and stuff like that. Excuse me 1 second.
What a gentleman! What a gentleman!
But I mean, those three at the moment. Mess around on stuff like Rocket League, Uno, just little bits of everything really. 2 Point Hospital, a bit of Minecraft every now and then. Just
can't beat that. That stuff. Again, I think is a very relaxing game.
I need a tutorial for Minecraft when I've got a 7-year-old daughter who's trying to play it.
Just hit stuff.
I just can't.
I can't say I've ever tried it to this day.
Never
tried Minecraft.
It's
for years.
really
I said I wouldn't play it. For years I said I wouldn't play it, and my friend was like, "Oh, for God's sake, you wimp, just play it." And I was like, "Oh, it's not my kind of thing." And then within about 5 minutes, I was like, "Oh, okay, fair enough."
Yeah. The thing that for me that because it's quite a simple game, but there's a lot to it. But the thing that just elevates Minecraft for me is the soundtrack. It is amazing. It's
very
just
relaxing.
It is. It's such a wonderful audio experience. There we are, Mojang.
Yeah, talking of audio, we've had a very good question in the chat, and I don't know. Here we go. What's your favourite music in a game? I love the Outrun music.
Oh, this is difficult. This is difficult, but possibly predictable.
Say it.
There are so many games I absolutely love the music to. Like it's got absolutely love like the Dark Souls music and stuff like that. But again, it comes down to something that was the full package when I played it first and ever since. And I actually went to Royal Albert Hall a couple of months back to see it in concert. Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
it's brilliant soundtrack.
Yeah,
it is. It is a soundtrack, and
I don't know, even if you find the game boring, you can still appreciate.
I don't know
the soundtrack.
what's more shocking is that they've done a concert on it. I just can't believe that.
Is that good?
That's
and the remake stuff for the movie as well. Like when they did the movie, and there was like the Advent Children sound. I've actually got the Advent Children soundtrack.
Yeah,
I like the music that much. And I'm not the kind of person who buys soundtracks to games and things like that.
I'm putting out there now. When we drive to Norwich for the OLL, it's a 4-hour journey. We are not listening to that.
Ryan, if we do, I'm walking there.
Who's driving?
You have to listen to One Winged Angel, Black Mages version.
Yes.
Is that why that's Kenny Omega's finishing move? Is that what he's based on?
He's a gamer and it's one we know. That's also why he's called the cleaner, apparently, because of blowing the cartridges to clean them. That's where he got the name the cleaner from.
It should be the blower, surely.
I agree.
You think that? Well, the blower might not really sound as cool when you walk into the room.
I have the original Final Fantasy VII soundtrack because it's nostalgia, but the remake soundtrack they did with full orchestras, it just kind of shows how good that soundtrack is. So much so that I had to go and buy the 7-disc soundtrack for the remake.
Beautiful.
This journey is going to be awful.
Oh, God.
Just for you, Ryan, we can listen to all 7 discs.
My girlfriend just gave this to me.
Yes. Who doesn't love a chocobo?
It's a Black Mage chocobo that we actually got from the concert. So
beautiful,
nice.
Yeah, beautiful. Nice. Right, I'm going to give Ryan a quick ultimatum then. So Ryan, I'm going to give you the choice, but you're not going to have just these choices, by the way. So for the drive to OLL, so from Portsmouth to Norwich. In the car, would you rather have the entire Final Fantasy VII remake soundtrack or the entire journey of death metal? I'm going to give you those two choices.
I'd rather have. You've got that well music. Can't we listen to that? I'd rather that. You think
I'm happy with both, Ollie.
I'd rather listen to
Final Fantasy VII.
You should vary it up a bit. You should vary it up. You should have a bit of Final Fantasy VII remake. There'll be a Skyrim, Dark Souls.
Yeah.
All the really meaty soundtracks.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily good music, but I always liked the music from the Katamari games, like Katamari Damacy. It's just quirky and weird.
But it's like Everton. Katamari. Oh, that's Danny Katamari.
Danny Katamari, yeah.
There's another soundtrack in there that Hammond's, one of my mates in there, HBO, has put in there. Resident Evil. The Resident Evil soundtracks are very good. Yep, Village has a really good soundtrack.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have that one. We'll have that one. We'll have that one. Sorted. Yeah.
Sorry, who's driving? Sorry. Who's driving?
Who's allowing you to drive me?
Yeah, you need to concentrate. You shouldn't be playing with the music. You should be
That's all
concentrating
right,
on
mate.
driving.
I'm quite happy if you guys want to walk or get the train. It's no problem.
I might drive myself.
Okay, so we've got a topic here that I think you spoke to Dorbs about, and we've called it Waller's Remasters.
Yes.
Okay, so do you want to explain to everyone what this is?
Well, every now and then there's a game that's not good enough to be considered a classic, but not bad enough to be considered the worst. And all these games in the hinterlands, they kind of mainly get forgotten. And when you bring them up with people, it's like, oh no, I don't remember that. But 3 games I thought were absolutely incredible that deserve a little, if not a remake, then a little bit of to inspire something else. First of which, I'll probably go for the most obscure, I think. It was on the Amiga. It was a game called BloodNet. And it was a vampire-y kind of game before the internet was really a proper thing. And it was, if I had to describe it as anything, it was like a bit kind of like cyberpunk with vampires. It was
just looking it up myself because I've never.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up. Yeah,
it was. It wasn't. It wasn't a great game, but it was entertaining enough. It played with. It had a character creation where you had to answer questions to build your personality and stuff like that. And I thought that was really interesting because it kind of did a questionnaire to give you a kind of like a reasonably the kind of character that you'd make yourself without having the autonomy of choosing your own stats. I'll say it wasn't a great game. It had a few bugs and bits and pieces, and it didn't perform particularly well on my Amiga. But it just caught my imagination, and it was all kind of like implants and stuff like that, and you had to like get yourself technology, and you'd have these chips you'd have in you had to implant yourself to stop you turning into a full vampire, and it was basically cyberpunk Dracula kind of thing. Really interesting game.
I'm looking at a clip now, and it looks like the Star Wars Cantina bar bit.
It was kind of like it was a bit of a point and click kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was just I just found it fascinating, and I was like, because I was a bit of a goth when I was a teenager. Still am a little bit, I guess, but
nothing wrong with being a bit of a goth.
No, indeed.
Love it.
Oh, where's he gone?
What's going on?
Here we go.
But no, I loved the idea of like, I mean, obviously there are vampire games these days, and you had like after that you had games like Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen, and of course you got the new Vampire the Masquerade game coming out at some point, apparently. But it was just like a really interesting, like first introduction to the whole concept of cyberpunk, and kind of like a fascination with vampires as well. So that's game number 1. Game number 1.
Wow.
Also very much on the gothic heading. One of my all-time favorite films, without a doubt, is basically the Alien franchise.
Yes.
And I absolutely love. A bit of a sidestep here, but I absolutely love the work of H.R. Geiger.
Yep.
It was just so dark and freaky, and the game that kind of embodied that whole freakiness. Again, another point and click kind of thing. A game called Darkseid.
I had that.
Yeah,
I had that on the Amiga. Yep, I do remember that.
Absolutely brilliant game. Absolutely brilliant. It was really tough. And a lot of the puzzles just didn't make sense at all, but that didn't detract from the fact that it was just like this. You had like always really creepy cutscenes, Geiger-esque, where everything's got tubes and tentacles and stuff coming out of it, and that was just fascinating.
Yeah, because I remember walking around. Amazing. He's walking around a house, and weird things happen. But I do remember that. I do remember playing that. It's
basically basically just having this house that's kind of like a portal to hell kind of thing, and it's like they're having the nightmares and having to solve the mystery of why you're having these nightmares and stuff like that. Darkseid was incredible. Darkseid was absolutely incredible. There was I hadn't seen a game that was as disturbing as that. I mean, to be honest, I played this when I was about 12, so I really shouldn't have played that. But it just, just that whole appreciation of the work of Geiger, and then to see it put into something interactive was like, wow, got to do that. That was just right. And number one, it could be made as a console game, a mobile game, any kind of game. You could play it on a watch or whatever. A game that deserves a huge amount of credit for just the fact that it was stupid was a game called Rockstar Ate My Hamster.
What?
Don't remember that one.
I remember that one. Look this up straight away.
Rockstar Ate My Hamster. What you had to do is you had to assemble a supergroup out of rock stars. Like you had a fictionalized version of Freddie Mercury, Gary Glitter, Shakin' Stevens, and like all that stuff. And you had to put together a band, and you had to rehearse with them and record and stuff. And it was like you had to balance the books and everything. And it was such a weird but wonderful game.
Jeez,
there's Michael Jackson.
Look at this.
Stunned.
I mean, it's a Codemasters game. Can this not come to Evercade? We need to get Roger on the case. Get Roger on the case to get this get this one onto an Evercade cartridge.
But I mean,
oh, look at these names.
It was just brilliant.
Wrigley Scott, amazing. Steven Cheeseburger. Oh wow!
You had instead of Stevie Wonder, you had Sneezy Wonderful. I think Boy George was By George. Eddie Quicksilver.
Wow.
Just trying to think of all the names now, but
this looks like the kind of game that Dean needs to stream.
Yeah, Dean needs.
I think Mean Machine Dean needs to get on this. And
it was a weird game, but it was brilliant. And as I say, it was one of those games that didn't take itself seriously, and it was just amazing.
I've got the list of the names here. We've got Wacky Jacko.
Yep.
Michael Gorge. Bimbo Baggins, who's Kylie Minogue. Crispy Rind, who's Chrissy Hind. Rick Ghastly, instead of Rick Astley. Dorothy. Maradona. Jason Donna Kebab.
Yeah.
Gracie Chapperson.
Tracy Chapman.
Scratch and Sniffer.
Yeah, Scratch and Sniffer.
Salt and Pepper. Midge Sewer. I like Sado instead of Sadie. Is that
Sade?
Sade.
Yeah.
Snoozy Sue instead of Suzu Sue. Is that it? And Boy George instead of Boy George.
Yeah.
And then Mince instead of Prince. And it's got there's loads on there. There's loads.
Just absolutely tons. And
this sounds amazing.
Cliff Richards. Sorry, just Cliff Richards is Stiff Pilchards.
Yeah.
Wow. This sounds amazing. I'll have to.
And it was the kind of game where you'd either be playing it for an hour or you'd be dead within 10 minutes. It's like you just have random disasters that happen, like one of your artists falls off the coach and is killed, and the record company drops you and stuff like that, and it was just really, it was nonsense, but it was enjoyable nonsense.
It looks good.
I've genuinely never heard of this. All three of these games, actually, I've heard of Darkseid but never played it.
Yeah.
But all three of these games are games that I've never actually played. But this is something else. Rockstar Ate My Hamster. I mean, it's just.
It was based on the old newspaper headline about Freddie Starr, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was Freddie Starr Ate My Hamster.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, let's make a game called Rockstar Ate My Hamster." You could make it. You could remake it as like you could do it like Popstar Shaved My Hamster or something to make it slightly less animal unfriendly. But you know, it's the kind of thing that deserves a bit more attention. Even if you don't get a remake, just deserves a bit more attention for how stupid it was.
Well, hopefully, Dean will stream that. Hopefully,
definitely, Dean, you've got to stream it. You're in the chat.
Please
do it.
Please make a dream come true.
Yeah, get on Twitch, make that video, and no, they're great games, and they're the type of games. I think Dorbs made a point that Evercade could pick up, or Nintendo, sorry, may have made the point and stick on a cart. So yeah, fingers crossed. But that game does look very interesting. I could have spent 10 minutes reading through some of those names. Couple
it's like
more controversial nowadays, but
but it's like all these. I mean, you couldn't possibly play every game that's ever been made. I know someone who's been streaming for like 10 years or something like that, playing every single SNES game to completion that's ever been released. And he's kind of about halfway through now or something like that.
Wow.
Maybe not 10 years, maybe about 5. I don't know, but it feels like a long time. But yeah, I mean, this just games like that. In fact, every game just needs to be preserved.
Yeah,
you know, it's an art form that doesn't get as much credit at the moment. But I mean, certainly with every new generation, where games actually become the whole audio-visual, you know, the whole multimedia package, where it's not just about the visuals, it's about the music. As I say, you know, if you told me 20 years ago that I'd be going to see a concert of music from a computer game, I'd been like, no, can't see that happening. But you know, it's becoming like the whole package of just like the games are art. I mean, there are some that are not particularly good art, but still, you know, things like this should be preserved. And it's you know, you do have obviously a lot of old games, like old generations and stuff. You can get them on like e-stores and stuff like that. But I had this kind of. I think we're gonna touch on this, weren't we? I don't want to be encroaching too much onto the next section if it's coming up, but
is it?
I had an idea. Yes,
our version of Dragon's Den.
Yes,
that was the one for legal reasons.
Yeah, and so basically that's. I've kind of skipped forward a bit on my pitch, but yeah, there should be. I mean, because like you've got this the seed banks that in case of Armageddon, you know, they've got this heavily protected bank of every single seed of every single plant on the planet. So if we ever needed to, you know, revert back to, you know, press a reset button and just plant everything from scratch, you know, there'd be that source there. And I think that it's like, because one thing I've always struggled with is thinking about emulation. Because I always feel bad, because I always feel like I'm kind of like a dirty little pirate or something, and or either that or the fact that if I download a ROM, that I'm going to get some horrible virus that's going to lock up my computer, and I'm going to get people ransoming everything. And there needs to be some kind of like central depository for every single computer game that's been made, and their ROMs to be preserved for eternity.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of emulation. I think with ROMs, I guess it's my rule of thumb is that if I can't buy the game, then I don't feel too bad about just getting the ROM, because if I can buy the game secondhand, the money's not going to the developer; it's going to like a CEX or a Trading Place or eBay. You're not buying it from the original source anyway, so I don't feel so bad about getting ROM. But I don't think I would like hack a modern console and like play games that are actually out now. I think we've mentioned the Evercade a few times. The Evercade is quite a good one to play games, and you're actually getting money back to the developers. And actually, when we had the Oliver twins on there, the Codemasters cart is actually the money for that goes to a charity. So
nice!
Actually, a charity one, so that's really cool. So yeah, I think it's always good to try and put money back into it. But when you can't, because if you're playing ROMs of like Mega Drive and NES games, you know you can't buy those new. So you know, if you want to play them, play the ROMs.
They definitely all need to be preserved somewhere. because those games were made to be played, and the people who made them, if I made a game, I would want it still to be played to this day.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
And people to have free access to it. I've made my money from it.
Yeah.
The
content. Like the Oliver twins said to us, didn't they? Like, oh, we're not expecting to make money off Dizzy. Like 30 years later, like
God, Dizzy.
Play it,
They've made enough. Yeah.
Love those games.
I'm glad someone does. They're very tough.
They are ridiculously hard. Yeah.
It took me weeks to get the thorn out about lion's paw.
Treasure Island Dizzy, one jump, dead. I don't know what to do.
Jump into the sea.
You jump into the sea and you die. What are you supposed to do? Someone tell me in the chat, because I don't know.
Roger
music in those Disney games.
It's all about perseverance. All about perseverance.
I think that's what we've lost a bit now. It's like we're talking about all these different games, like, and you mentioned it earlier that back then you'd probably get like 2 games a year. I think a lot of us were quite similar. You get like a game for your birthday or a game for Christmas. You're lucky if you got another one throughout the year. So if you got something like a Disney game or a point and click adventure, you had the patience at the time to keep going back to it. Like, oh, I haven't tried that yet. I haven't tried this yet. And like
Monkey Island
adventures, like Monkey Island. Something like Monkey Island. Obviously, they've done some re-releases and some update and graphics and stuff. But if a game like that came out now, I don't know how well received it would be, because I don't think people would have the patience.
No, you give up.
You just look it up, wouldn't you? You're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. This is boring. I'm going to look it up online and read through a guide. That kind of style's died off a bit now, I think.
For me, I guess like a modern, it's not quite the same, but I guess a modern equivalent of challenging games for that kind of thing for me is probably the Souls series. They've just sort of it's completely different in a sense that it's not it's not a point and click and it's not this kind of thing, but it's taken me many years to finally appreciate the Souls games, and it was with the Dark Souls remake on PS5 that all of a sudden it clicked. I didn't mind that I would die thousands of times or lose 10,000 souls. It was like, oh right, I need to do this, and you just needed to figure out the better way of playing the game to beat a particular area, and I guess that's the challenge in some of those games. A lot of people don't like them, and I was one of those people a while back. So no, it's too hard. I don't want to spend 40 quid on a game and not enjoy it. Whereas that Dark Souls remake, I enjoyed from start to finish. Every punishing, awful moment of it was just wonderful. And I'm now going back over the Souls games.
Yeah, I've not got the balls to do Souls games. I would literally, my blood pressure would go through the roof. I'd just rage constantly. And to be honest, I think I made the right choice. I remember my mate Russ, who used to work in Game Station, and I had these 2 games there, and I had Demon Souls, and I had God of War 3, and it was like, I was like, I'd never played a God of War game before, but it just looked really cool.
Yeah.
And it was like, he was like, you don't want Demon Souls. I was like, really? I was like, it looks like a really kind of like good medieval beat 'em up kind of thing. He said, well, I couldn't even get past the first skeletons. And then I was like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. It is punishing.
Recently, Metroid Dread. I got to the end, I got to do the end boss, and then I was fighting him, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, there's still loads of stuff I haven't done. So I literally just stopped, and I went back to the bottom, and I worked my way, and I wouldn't check any. I was getting to what they were doing. Some of them were doing my head in, and I was like, how can I get there? And I was like, I could just literally pick my phone up, type it in, and show how to do it. But I was like, no, I'm not doing it. So instead of completing the game in 9 hours, it took me 15, because I just spent ages making. And then that's the first time in years I just haven't gone. Just grab my phone and literally just look it up. But no, I thought I'm just gonna work it out myself. Yeah, some of them are ridiculous.
No. But yeah, it's like you got to go for those. I know Switch, you don't get platinum trophies, but you got to go for the completion.
Yeah,
totally. It's like one of the things that was a massive problem with me when I used to play World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy Online. It was like I kind of had to do everything, and I wasn't satisfied until I'd got every craft to max level, every sword skill to max level and everything. I was just like, it became such a time sink, and I was like, right, okay, well, you know, stopped playing it after a while because it was like, actually, this is kind of taking over my life.
Yeah.
Going back to your original pitch about like saving games and keeping them for people to play, is there so if somebody in the chat knows, or if any of you guys know, with movies, once a movie reaches a point, it's either historically significant or there's something about the movie which means it's really it's just really significant. It ends up getting saved, and they end up like literally almost archiving it and keeping it. And I'm wondering if there is a thing for that for video games. Is there a video game archive where people do where they do this? A game reaches a significance, and all of a sudden it just they can store it. Things like I mean all the classics, Mario Brothers, all the Sonics, and all those kind of games which really do hold some great significance.
I'd say privately, there's probably a few people who've got like massive garages full of just like garages end to end full of computer games and stuff.
Essex is a game room, probably.
Probably, yeah.
his collection is mental.
I wish I had the kind of money to just do stuff like that and just get all the like just masses and masses of stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I mean, these are things that obviously they have a great deal of significance to us in terms of growing up and our formative years and stuff like that, and have a real place emotionally for us, for a lot of them. But the thing is, because games these days are being appreciated more as they're more than just waste of time. It always used to be a case that oh yeah, waste your time playing games and stuff like that, and you got people winning millions of pounds in CS:GO and Fortnite tournaments and stuff like that, and it's like, well, it's not actually these days. It's more appreciated as something more significant. So
yeah,
I certainly think they should be appreciated.
Absolutely.
I can't remember where sort of what point in gaming it was when people genuinely thought that, and all of a sudden people realized, oh, this isn't just a thing for kids. It's like, no, people make a living out of making these games, crafting these games. People make a living out of playing these games for other people to watch. Gaming has now transcended just this silly thing that nerds do in the bedroom, and it is now it is a industry that is arguably bigger than the movie industry. I'm sure that stat's been said before, that gaming is I think pound for pound bigger than the movie industry. And now you've got games like Last of Us being made into TV shows with Pedro Pascal starring in them, and it's that is when a game gaming has become that big enough that HBO are willing to pump Game of Thrones type money at a TV at a video game to make it a show. It's one of these things that I still try and explain it to my mum, who's just sort of not a gamer, funnily enough. But even now she'll be like, you'd be playing a game sometimes, and she'll sort of pop her head in the room, if she's dropping my daughter off from dancing or something, and I've managed to sneak in half an hour of a game or whatnot, and she'll be, what's that? What TV show are you watching? You're like, it's a game, Mum. She's like, looks very real, doesn't it? It's gone on a bit since. You sort of try and explain to her. It's moved on a little bit now since Mario World, the last game that I think she actually sat there and possibly watched me play.
But one thing that always blows me away with games is water. How well water is animated now in a game. It just looks so real. Like they haven't quite got faces right yet. Like you can always tell when you're watching a cutscene by someone's face there's not actually a real person. But like trees and water and like people's hair and things like that, you look at it just looks real. And it's not until you see someone's face you're like, okay, I could just about tell that it's a game. But whenever you're on a game that has like water features and stuff, if you're on a boat and you're looking at sometimes you just stare and look at the waves and think, wow, that looks really realistic water.
No. I remember one of my friends used to play Grand Theft Auto and just say, "Oh, I go up for a drive in the mountains just to chill out for like a couple of hours." For him it was like a peaceful drive. He loved that. So
water
I'm
feature
laughing because
for
I
me,
kind of agree with you.
The water feature for me, the one that blew my brains the very first time was Bioshock. Playing that on the 360 demo and just sort of, you crash and you come out and above the water and your character just immediately takes a breath. And I remember seeing the water on the effect on that, and genuinely me and my mate going, wow, like holy hell, this is what gaming has become. I know it's moved on even more since then, but yeah, it's one of those effects. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like
go on, sorry.
No, I'm just saying it's funny how kind of like gaming just bleeds into every part of life now. It's like a couple of years ago I was so bored I practiced parallel parking on Grand Theft Auto. That kind of thing. But yeah, certainly it's everything's becoming so much more immersive, and that's say at that point, you say even like with facial animations or stuff like actually having Norman Reedus in Death Stranding and Rami Malek in Until Dawn, and actually having like people's actual faces, and it's like, there was always a little bit of kind of like it wasn't quite there, but now you see it these days, and like the technologies to the point where the facial animation, certainly with actual face capture itself, it's pretty damn good. Scary.
It's amazing.
It's very
definitely
cool.
Especially when you look at the early FIFA games. We should do a quiz. Where we get the what those players are supposed to. We've got to try and work out
who are they?
Who they're supposed to be.
I think one of the first games I remember seeing facial animation on and genuinely being like, oh my god, like, because lip syncing was never worked, was it? It was just a mouth that just sort of did that for a while. But Heavenly Sword on the PS3, I remember lip syncing on that, seeing that and thinking, oh my god, like the lips match the words. This is a jump. And that was always that was one of the first games for me where I remember thinking, oh my god, yeah, this is catching up a bit now.
What was that one Rockstar game with? Was it like a detective one?
Oh,
and that was
LA Noire.
LA Noire, that was it. Yeah, that was amazing.
That was very good as well.
Impressive,
You
very
could see if
impressive.
they were lying by looking at their face.
Yeah.
Problem with that though is that it tended to set your PS3 on fire.
Yeah, all of a sudden the jet engine would kick in.
It's like taking off.
It just flies out the window.
Yeah. So there we go. So we're going to need to set up something then, whereby we're going to start historically archiving video games.
Yeah,
I think
damn right.
Yeah,
damn right.
That sounds good.
As part of the RGR Snake Pit, I am going to back you. Yeah, I haven't got any money. I've got no money whatsoever to throw at this project.
Yeah.
I'm going to back you.
We're going to make you an offer. We're going to make you an offer.
My offer is all of my moral support, and I'll do as many status updates as I can.
Yeah,
to promote this.
I love it. What are we going to call it though? What are you going to call it?
Waller's World.
Yes. Waller's World. Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know. Can't have my name in it. It'll never sell.
It will. We'll have to think of a name. We'll have to think of a name.
We'll have to.
Any ideas? Comments? Let us know.
Wallopedia. Okay. There you go. Wallopedia.
No.
Wallopedia, like Wikipedia.
Okay, so we did notice that you had a Twitch channel, or you did, and you've stopped now. Would you ever return to Twitch?
It's difficult, and I don't want to be too controversial here because obviously I don't want to say anything too naughty, but guys like me don't usually get that many followers. Not pretty enough. To be honest, streaming is something that I took really seriously for about a solid year. I was streaming 12, 16 hours a day.
Wow.
Like 3 or 4 times a week. And at the end of that year, it was like, I've got like 3 viewers. Is it worth it? And, to the point where it's like, I mean, I didn't go big on like promotion or anything like that. It was just something I enjoyed doing and getting people talking in chat. And it was just like, I'm putting in a lot of effort here for not a great amount of return. So it was, I found that things with streaming, when you stream, sometimes you need to be so focused on the game that it's difficult to keep that back and forth going, if anyone's talking at all. But I mean, it's something that certainly I'd go back and do stuff like Jackbox, silly stuff, just so my mates can log into my channel and we can all have a game together and just have a laugh. I think with streaming, it's one of those things, if you go into it with the thought that it could be a business or a living for you, you're probably not going to get very far, because it has to be purely for the love of doing it. And it's got to be regimented, it's got to be set days, set hours, and it's one of those things you just really got to stick with and just do, and expect the trolls and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it's fun, but you just got to do it for the fun.
Totally.
And if you hit a pocket of people who think you're entertaining and stuff, and they come back every day to watch you, and then you grow with that organically, then that's brilliant. But that's more difficult to do than it sounds, because if there's a popular game that people are playing, guaranteed there's going to be someone much bigger than you who's going to be playing it, that everyone's going to go and watch. The only thing you can really hope for is that when that big streamer finishes, they might chuck you a raid and send all their viewers over to you, who 1% of them might follow you as well, and just kind of build that way. But no, it's not easy at all. Absolutely not.
Good friend of the channel, Me Machine Dean, his thoughts are very simple, because he twitches a lot. He's amassed a good following, but he said he was just happy when he started having one person watching him. And he turns off, doesn't he? Turn off like number of views, number of people watching, because it puts him off. He says if you focus on that, you're not going to enjoy it. He just enjoys doing what he's doing, and if anyone tunes in, then
and he's
better.
He's got his hardcore fans as well, which are viewing, which is great. You go in there and you see the same people. Rock Salt is one that always watches Dean, who's really, really cool. So I think it just takes time, doesn't it? Just takes time.
Oh, absolutely. I just thought that a year of my life dedicated to it was just a little bit too much. I thought, well, probably best to go and do something else to make money. This ain't it.
Okay, so just gonna touch on what made you famous, being on Pop Idol. Obviously, you made it to the live series. I've always wanted to ask you this: were you genuinely unwell at that point? You could not have carried on.
Basically, I mean, I've had to turn off the microphone a couple of times to cough. Basically, the problem I had was I sustained an injury to my vocal cords, and it finished me off. It finished off my music career, because I'd obviously released the album, and I got a band together, and I tried to go off touring and stuff like that, and it got to the point where I'd actually got so bad that it was embarrassing being on stage. My voice had just completely gone, and I was like, everyone around me saying, "Oh yeah, but you've got such an amazing voice," and I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry, but you're not hearing what I'm hearing." And it was, I could have gone on stage every night and made a lot of money phoning it in. I could have done that, but I just, being massively critical of myself anyway, and I'm my own biggest critic in absolutely everything. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't live with that feeling of being a fraud. And it's got a bit better since then, but not to the point where I'd actually say that I was happy to go out and perform again. Karaoke, yeah, brilliant. Have a few songs on the karaoke just for fun, brilliant. But that was just unfortunately something that has just happened, and I have to learn to live with it. But
glad that you done it though, because I always think that first series of Pop Idol was iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that it's like, careful what you wish for, because everyone wants to be famous and you know, see their name up in lights and have a recording contracts and be a millionaire and everything. But a lot of people don't realize the fact that when you get in the position where you're on your road, on the road to getting that, like you're recording an album, you're going off performing, that a lot of days you'll be working like 16, 20 hours a day, and that takes its toll on you massively.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's not just the actual performing as well. It's like all the traveling involved. And like you can spend 8 hours in a car just traveling from like one day I did left London, went to Manchester to do an afternoon and Newcastle in the evening, and then back again, back down to London, and you get back and you have like 2 hours sleep, and then it's time to get up again.
Yeah, it's mad. It's crazy.
I suffered a great deal during that time. It's a petty thing to say, being in such a privileged position as I was at the time. Mentally, I couldn't stick it. I fell to pieces.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's a way to petty it at all. I totally. I mean, I've never been in the position to experience that level of commitment, but definitely when I had my older band, and my band was death metal. It's not exactly a genre that's it's not gonna propel me to playing Wembley anytime, or wasn't going to propel us to playing Wembley anytime soon. But we put in a really good 5 hard years into that, and managed to buy our way onto a really decent tour that opened up a lot of doors for us. And it was only after we'd done that tour that we suddenly realized that in order to really sustain the level that we'd grown over that last 8 months, the next year we needed to be playing 300 shows.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that's 300 shows out of the 365 days a year. Okay, the album that we were going to make, we had to pay for ourselves, and so I never did it, because at that point our singer left. He was like, nah, fuck this, I'm off, see you later, chaps. And then the band just fell to pieces very quickly after that. So I never experienced that, but absolutely, I wouldn't say you should ever feel bad about.
No, totally not.
Woe is me, because it is difficult, and people don't, and I don't think people do understand the levels of pressure that are put on people like yourself at that time to meet these commitments, because it
was a time when nobody really talked about mental health.
Yeah.
Someone in my intimate circle of people on my team were just like, even the mere hint at being, not being able to handle it was like, oh well, depression is something that lazy people use as an excuse. And it's like that attitude was like rife. And if anyone said that now, they'd be instantly cancelled. But it was just the way things were. And and if you needed help, it was always this kind of stigma that it was just absolutely horrible. And I'm so glad that I got out of the big time. And I mean, don't get me wrong, some of the things I've done in my career are absolutely incredible, like playing to over 100,000 people in Brighton, just seeing this sea of faces and just looking out and being like, wow, this is it. It doesn't get any better than this. And it didn't, but at least I had that opportunity, during the 2002 World Cup. 2002 World Cup, sitting down watching Republic of Ireland play Mexico or someone like that with Ronan Keating and having a chat with him.
Wow.
Brilliant, amazing. Stuff that I had no right to expect that I would ever do. And meeting the people I met, and just it was just I'm happy that happened, but there's a lot of stuff that I wish I'd done differently. I wish I'd chosen my fights a little bit more wisely. I was so combative. I wanted to change the industry. I wanted people to listen to me, and so I could say, look, this is what's wrong with everything. We've got to address it, because it's breaking people, and it's destroying people and leading people to suicide.
Yeah.
And it was too much. It was too much too soon, and I wasn't the person to spearhead that kind of revolution. And I was so focused on being the person to try and break down those walls that it made me just basically, in the eyes of the industry, just a complete troublemaker, which I was, to be fair. I was 21 and very few social skills, not really knowing how to go about things, and no guidance. So
it takes a lot to speak up, doesn't it, and say that you're struggling and ask for help. But like I say, there's a lot more now on, like, encouraging people to speak up and ask for help. But if you're struggling and your response you get is that unhelpful, it sounds like there is a lot of change needed, and people should be able to speak up, say, actually, this is too much. And the thing is, back then I think a lot of people saw that as a sign of weakness if you're saying you're struggling, but actually it's the opposite. It's a sign of strength that you're brave enough to say, you know what, I need help, and I need to reach out. So it's not a sign of weakness at all. It's the complete opposite, I think.
Well, we think you're a legend, and when you agreed to do this, we couldn't, honestly, genuinely, when you messaged me and said, yeah, fine, we just couldn't believe it. I would send all these guys a message, and we were like, what the hell? So,
I see. The thing is, I like the industry. I wouldn't say I'd never want to be in that position of fame again. But I like I like small creators and medium-sized creators, and kind of getting involved, because it's fun, and the rules are, it's a lot easier to do what you want to when you're not basically tied down by all the rules of like production companies and labels and stuff like that. So it's just a lot more fun. And certainly, I mean, as I say, when you told me to watch the video with Big Boy Barry, I watched it and I was like, this is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it struck a chord, and I was like, this is the kind of thing I like to get involved with. And
that's brilliant.
Just share opinions, and
definitely.
I can talk for England.
just to add what Dorbs is saying, I genuinely mean this. I went to Iron Apple with my mates in 2002, and I was chatting to Nintendo Ollie about this earlier. And do you know, on the aeroplane you get like radio stations, don't you?
Yeah.
And I remember your song was on a loop on the way to Cyprus. I Always Love You, but that song will forever remind me of Iron Apple, more so than the
how
songs
happy
I
you
heard
were to get off that plane.
No, but if Craig was in the chat tonight, he would say exactly the same. We'd like punch each other in the arm. It's on again, Channel 7, and we'd be like, yeah, here we go. So that's a nice happy memory that I definitely have of your career. So
no, I think someone in the chat earlier is just sort of put in there that they're actually really appreciating just your honesty about that sort of era and stuff. It isn't something that I think a lot of people still try not to talk about, but it's very difficult to keep that sort of thing quiet now. With, the advent of social media and all this kind of stuff, things can snowball very, very quickly in a positive and a negative way. It's got its pros and its cons, but I think it's I think people would have really sort of appreciated you talking about that. So
absolutely.
I mean,
thank you.
Social media is a plague, but we're all addicted to it.
Yeah.
And so many of our businesses and ventures and stuff rely on it. So it's kind of like they've got us by the short and curlies anyway. So
Yeah, it's very much a tool. Like it was during lockdown, I was getting really fed up with Facebook, and I almost got rid of it because I'd scroll from a Facebook and it was just things about Donald Trump and things about the vaccines and lockdown, and it was and then lots of people venting about stuff, and it's a very negative space. And then these guys started doing Retro Gamer Revival, and I'm not OG RGR, but I came on a bit later.
You are original.
I joined that. I joined the group and was like posting in it, and I joined some other stuff, and then literally my Facebook feed was just like people just talking about games and things like that. And I was like, this is so much. While I'm doom scrolling on my phone, at least I'm looking at people talking about something fun that I enjoy, instead of like all these really bad news updates about how many people have like caught COVID today and all these other updates and stuff. Like I know that's going on. Don't want to hide from it, but I don't want to just be reading that constantly on my phone. So I've completely changed what my Facebook is now by joining different groups and getting involved in more conversations, and it's completely changed it. So I definitely see maybe just social media in general is a tool, and if it's affecting you negatively, then change how you interact with it, or
absolutely,
or turn it off and do something else.
Totally. You want to.
If it hadn't have been for the last 18 months, would we have done this channel? I don't know. Would we be talking to legends like Rik and then Big Boy Barry? I don't know. So this has given us that escape from jobs and the real world for a couple of hours every other week. So it's one good thing that's come out of the last 18 months. Getting to chat.
It's changed the way that a lot of people do things. Changed like attitudes from like working from home and stuff like that, and working hours, and just there has been a lot of positive that's come out of it, but it shouldn't have taken something like a pandemic to make us realize things that to us now are obvious. And it's certainly pushed forward a lot of pushed a lot of more technology and interacting with it. Certainly with like the amount of Zoom calls I've had with work since the pandemic started, and how everyone works as a result. I mean, there have been some bad things that have happened, like certainly with one of the big problems in the gaming industry is like with all the crunch of all the games that you'd expect to be out by now, but and that's another thing that's got to be sorted as well, because there's as much as we all love games, it's like there seems to be such a toxic culture, certainly with a lot of people who make games, and the fact that they're again like working ridiculous hours, and and I think I may get a bit of hate for this one, but us as gamers are kind of like a little bit to blame as well, because the first thing we do if we see that something's been postponed, we're like, oh, for God's sake, we hate these people.
Totally, absolutely,
like that. But the same hand, if something comes out it's full of bugs, we complain about that as well. So
you can't win, really. Exactly.
Biggest one for that for me was Cyberpunk. Like I'd deliberately not seen much of the trailers in the build up to it, because I really wanted to, because everyone was talking about it. So right, this is clearly going to be a big game. I'm just going to go into it as blind as I can. And then it got launched, and everyone was like, oh, it's buggy, it's broken, it's this, that, and the other. I was like, right, okay, so I'm not going to get it at launch. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little read about the development of this game. And it just seemed that they launched a trailer and talked about it like way before it was released, and people were so hyped for it that they just couldn't wait for it anymore. And the demand from CD Projekt Red on the staff was basically, we need this game finished by this date, and that is it. And it's like, but it's not ready, and they're like, we don't care, pump it out.
It's all about shareholders,
man.
If a game gets delayed, share prices fall down. And it stops being about the creative process and actually is just about the business. You can't manufacture, you can't force that kind of thing. It's just you've got to let it grow organically and be done when it's done. And you've got to make sure that you don't overhype something too early. Like I was waiting. I mean, the old PS3 tech demo for the original what ended up being the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yep. Oh my god!
I think the problem with the Final Fantasy remake demo was it came out way too early. I was looking forward to the game for so long because they teased it like years ago.
2006, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they just teased it way too
like that.
But they did when they eventually decided they were going to do that remake. They did it in the best way possible. They just had that little bit of music that everybody knew, little shot of clouds back, and I think it just said something like, what was it, 2020 or whenever it was coming. But it was in like 2016 or whenever it was. I can't remember exactly. But it was such a long window that they were like, no, this is the date. Tough shit. And you're like, cool. And that was it. That was all I needed, was just to know it was coming in those years.
Yeah.
Unlike poor Cyberpunk, which just it was just dragged through the coals. And it's a real shame because I played the game on PS5 and it is amazing. It's
no.
What's happened?
Finally happened.
It's back.
Brilliant.
I shall leave it there because I can see Ryan's got what's in the box on the ready to go.
Yeah, I've just looked at that and I was like, ooh.
Well, we've almost had 2 hours of Richard's time this evening, so I know Dorbs is desperate to do what's in the box. Okay, so do you want me to play the intro?
Yeah, but before we do, Ryan, I think I need to get something off my chest.
Okay, let's get you on.
About Games Master. Obviously, it was very low expectations, but it did impress me. I absolutely loved it. Loved Big Boy Barry. Absolutely marked out big style. Did a big pot for that. Brilliant that he's with his son. Absolutely loved that. And then I heard his name, Little Lad Larry. And I thought to myself, hang on a minute. So I've got a speech here. Hang on.
Oh my god.
Hang on, let me just...
How many pages is this speech?
Hang on, sorry about this.
Has anybody proofread this?
No.
Forgive me. Forgive me.
You've got to be... This is poor.
Has anyone been to Peppa Pig World recently? I went there yesterday. It's very good.
I have a season ticket, in fact.
It's my kind of place. So yeah, I want you to, obviously you've seen it as well, Richard. 26th of May. Cast your minds back. I was pitching an idea to the legendary Alex Very, he is a legend, about a new sitcom involving his big boy character. And I stated the following. Now this is on YouTube, and the actual link is youtube.com/watch?V=EZLA _ H C T A K Y and T = 13 lowercase s. So if you go to that link there, 57 minutes and 35 seconds in, I stated, and this is a direct quote, it's sort of a bit of a mockumentary. So obviously we see Barry as an adult. You're still with Charlene, and maybe they've got a big boy Barry Jr. or a little lad Larry. Now, bearing in mind, this is 6 months before Games Master debuted on Sunday. There's a couple of solutions here. It could be one, it could be a massive coincidence, which probably is not, or two, they've actually watched our video and stolen my idea. So I've got a little statement. Now, it's come to my attention that E4 and its associates have used, without verbal, electronic, or written permission explicitly granted by myself, they've used my little lad Larry copyrighted idea. This unlawful and unauthorized use of said brilliant idea, first distributed on May 26, 2021, may carry on for the foreseeable future, as we all at RGR love Big Boy Barry and Little Lad Larry. So I'm happy for them to continue using Little Lad Larry for the Games Master.
Going then.
No, I'm happy they can continue using it. I'm hoping to get a writing credit, but I'm happy to continue. So yeah, but yeah.
Or
so basically,
can they get us in the audience for Games Master?
We get a freebie. We get a freebie.
Get us in the audience for Games Master.
So yeah, even though it was my idea, it's my idea. It's been documented in May. It was my idea 6 months ago. I'm happy for them to continue using it. So
Like
I think
golden
sort of,
joystick.
Okay,
sums us up, really.
let's do your intro.
Yeah, just do it.
What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
Right,
Nice.
so obviously you've probably not seen us before. No, you would. No, we didn't do it, Barry.
Yeah, I did see it.
Oh, right.
I
Okay,
watched another couple of episodes as well, to be honest.
Oh, excellent. Well
Yeah.
done. So there's the box. Obviously, you know, very good. So inside this box, retro
I spy Russell Hobbs.
item.
Is that a kettle box
No, of course not.
or a toaster?
No, it's just a proper box. We're all ultra professional here. So yeah, inside here, I've got a retro gaming item. So it could be a console, game, peripheral, magazine, instruction manual, whatever you name it. It could be in there. So you've got 20 questions. I can only say yes, no. So go for it. Shoot. Who's going first?
Ollie, Nintendo Ollie's at the top, isn't he? So we'll work our way down, I think.
Oh, I'm the duck again. I literally just typed no duck with premium. And there
Yeah,
it
the
is.
duck. Yes.
It's back.
Right. Okay. Is it a game?
Yeah.
Is it a Pop Idol game?
No.
Ah,
No, I think there might have been one actually.
There definitely
There
is.
was, yeah.
Dawes definitely owns it.
I thought that'd be too obvious.
Okay, is it a CD-based game?
Do you mean CD or DVD?
Well, CD, DVD.
Yes, it is, mate. Yeah.
Ooh, right. Okay. Is it PlayStation based?
Yes.
Okay.
PlayStation 2.
What was that? Sorry.
PlayStation 2.
Yes, mate. Yes. Very good. Very good.
Is it a sports game?
No.
Okay.
Is it a music game? Or should I say music/dance game?
Yes. Very good. Very good, Tim. Very good, Triangle Face. Very good.
Is it Dance Nation Fever or something like that? I think it was called.
No.
Oh,
it's going to be obscure. It's going to be obscure. It's going to be like a really weird, like dancing game where you're dancing ducks or dogs or cats or something very Japanese influenced.
Is that a question? Is that a question?
Is it? Yeah. It's kind of a more of an assumption than a question, but that is my question. Yeah.
Okay. Can you shorten that question down?
Is it a dance game that includes kind of more quirky things rather than realistic?
Yes. But it's not dancing.
Oh, okay.
But it is quite quirky. So I'll give you a little bit of an extra there.
Is Prapper the Rapper on there?
Is what? Sorry.
Is it Prapper the Rapper?
No, Prapper Rapper was on PS1. Or do they have a second one on PS2?
Yeah, I'm sure they have.
Yeah, I was thinking Prapper the Rapper.
Is it one of the Dance Dance Revolution? Is it part of the Dance Dance Revolution series?
No.
Okay. Well, that eliminates at least 50 games. So that's a good start.
So it sounds like it's a not quite a dance game, but a music/dance game on the PlayStation 2. It's not Dance Dance Revolution. It's got some quirkiness to it.
Oh, I have a possibility.
Go on, you can go again if you've got an idea.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's quirky enough. I'm going to throw it out there. Is it Guitaru Man?
No.
Well,
is it singing and dancing?
I've never played it, but yes.
Okay, can you play it with like a peripheral? So do you play it with like a dance mat or like Guitar Hero guitars, that kind of thing? In general? So does it play generally with a peripheral of some kind?
I don't think so.
don't think so.
Not even like a
that's-
microphone, because I can't actually completely play it with a controller then.
As far as I'm aware, I've never played it, but as far as I'm aware, it doesn't need any extra stuff like a drum kit or guitar or anything like that.
I'm trying to think of a game. I'm trying to think of the name of it. There was a game. It might have been PlayStation. It might have been PlayStation 2, but it was a game where you played a dolphin, and you were going through and like collecting musical notes and stuff. I can't remember what it was called. Was that something Flow?
I remember the game you're talking about, but I think that's on PS1.
Yeah, I thought it could possibly.
Is that the one where you're behind the dolphin? It's going forwards.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that might be PS1.
That's my guess anyway. That was just, yeah.
So no, it's not.
How many questions we got left?
No, you got 5.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
5.
The weirdest PS2 game that I can think of that is remotely dance based, I can't think if it's singing based as well, is a game called Boogie. And you look like the cheese string guys on the front cover in like a John Travolta type suit. I remember someone at college having that. It is weird.
Okay, is there a question in that?
Well, is it Boogie for PS2?
No. So I'm going to give you a clue. You seem to be focusing on the dance, but I've said earlier it's not dancing.
You said it was dancing and singing.
Yes, there's a question. There's a question about dancing, and I said no.
You
and
didn't.
You seem to have, I did. Watch your back, 100%.
Oh. Yeah, he did. To be fair.
Is it a SingStar game then?
No.
No, because it doesn't use a peripheral, so it shouldn't have like a microphone.
Yeah, but this is
so it's got to be some kind of rhythm game then, which is why I went with the dolphin one. I just thought it might have been, but.
Has he done Britney's dance beat before?
Yeah, he's done Britney's dance
before.
There's a High School Musical PS2
but again, that would
game.
be a dance game, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, High School Musical would be dance on it.
Do we take
it?
It's
not quite. I don't think it's a singing game or dancing game specifically, because a singing game would be using the microphone. Dance game would be using the dance game.
Probably one of them
Was there a Spice Girls game or something?
It's got to be like a rhythm game, isn't it? Where you're pushing in like a Parappa the Rapper-esque game, I think. But I don't know any on the PS2.
There's got to have been a Spice Girls game.
Yeah,
there definitely was on PS1. I know that for sure.
PS2.
Is it based on a film or TV show?
Yes. Very good question, Ryan. Very, very good question.
Right, based on a film or TV show. Interesting.
Could it be that High School Musical then?
Too early, I think.
That was on PS2 because I'm looking at it at the moment.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you sing it?
It would have been one of the latter PS2 games. Oh, there's a Wiggles PS2 game.
Hang on, are you on Google? Are you on Google? You cheating?
I may be having a peruse.
Unbelievable.
Is there any rules that say we're not allowed to go on Google?
Yeah.
No. How many questions have we got left?
2.
Minus 3.
Okay.
To be fair, Ryan, I am out.
Should we have a punt at High School Musical singer?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No.
You got one left.
Are you in the chat?
Yeah, I was going to say, straight over to the chat.
In the chat, that's got
far more clued up than we are.
Phone a friend.
This is
Gran Turismo.
It's based on a TV show.
Mean Machine Dean has said Space Channel 5.
Is that a game?
Let me check. I've heard of it, but is it on PS2?
More Googling. This is unbelievable.
I think it might have been on PS2.
Right, do you want a clue?
It is.
Space Channel 5.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not human. So I'll give you a big clue there.
They're not human.
They're not human.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out.
Who's next? I've
think
given you a
someone's-
massive clue there.
Yeah,
No, you
it's
haven't.
a massive clue when you know the game
And you're
you're
Googling.
talking
You're
about.
Googling. You're cheating.
How can we Google this? PS2 possible rhythm,
Even
possible
with we
dance,
yeah,
maybe singing type game with non-humans in
exactly.
it.
Well, it's not something you can Google. You can't just Google.
I think someone's put in the comments from Jamalami, but I think that's PS1. Yeah, that was 16-bit bits and bobs. I'm sure that's.
Time's running out. Come on.
Yeah, I've got no idea.
Smash one more clue. Give us one more clue, considering this is.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's got in the soundtrack. It's got All the Small Things by Blink 182.
I mean, that doesn't.
Okay. If this is going to be like a Guitar Hero game or something, or anything similar to that, then that's
Guitar
going to
Hero
be
used
wrong.
a peripheral.
Yeah.
So,
that's my thought. It's like that can't be
Yeah.
right. All the Guitar Hero stuff is not.
Mate, I've got no idea.
Is it Rock Band Sessions 1?
No, and that's your final.
I was about to say, is it going to be one of those ones like I can't remember the name of the game is though. But there's one that Jack Black did where it's all music themed. But it's actually just a game.
Brutal Legend.
Brutal Legend. Yeah, I was going to start thinking about that.
You should have asked that, Tim. You should have asked that really, but it's too late now.
Too late now.
So unfortunately, you lose again.
No, we've won the last like 3
If it's
times.
Brutal Legend, I'm be gutted.
This is the classic
21st question.
This is the classic. Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh Christ!
How on earth would we ever gotten that?
No.
Look at that, Alvin and the Chipmunks.
You know, half a point for being in the right area.
Oh, there's the receipt. There is a receipt.
Is it a rhythm-based game, or is it just a platformer featuring Alvin and the Chipmunks?
According to Wikipedia.
You need to play these games to make sure you know the right answers. Not that we would have got anyway.
I'm going by Wikipedia, and you're using Google, so you're cheating. So basically, it follows the chipmunks as they play their way from small venues such as high school prom or a civic centre to massive crowds at Burning Monk and ultimately Rockathanapalooza, whatever that is. The soundtrack features 40 songs, including All the Small Things by Blink 182. It's Tricky by Run DMC. And the classic Heartbreak Hotel by Elvis Presley.
You
definitely
can just imagine them being sung by Alvin and the bloody Chipmunks now, can't you? And ruining them.
Yeah. So, hang on. I just tells us about all their albums.
Well, that was another disappointing episode.
Well, I thought because we had, someone who was a professional singer.
Well, and you get the Chipmunks. Wow. You had so many songs, games to pick, and you chose that.
What's the point of getting an easy one? I want to get one that's like funny. Okay, but yeah, unfortunately, well done. I would say well done, but
it's fun as always. But before we wrap it up, I'm just going to give a shameless plug for our stream on here tomorrow night. So check out this video. There we go. That's with our friends at the Evercade non-official fans group. So join us tomorrow, 8 o'clock. We've also got Sean from Blaze Entertainment, Crazy Burger, UK Game Crowd. There's a lot of people. If I've forgotten you, Martin from evercade.info. And we've got Liam from Evercade Evolution magazine. So there's a lot of people, but there's a chance to win not one, but two. I'm going to do my fingers, 2 Evercade VSs, one that comes with 6 cartridges, and I think one that comes with 1 or 2 cartridges. Roger, if you're in the chat, if you could confirm that. But yeah, we're going to be giving away 2 Evercade VSs. There's also 2 Evercade Lynx cartridges that you can win. So it's going to be an awesome stream. So definitely tune in tomorrow at 8 o'clock. But talking of awesome streams, Richard, it's been amazing having you on this evening.
It's really been absolutely fantastic.
Your time.
I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. Really hope to get you back in the very, very near future.
Yeah, we'll have to do a stream or something where you show me how games are really played. And I can just
do that.
Just be sitting in the corner, just like melting into a pool of my own tears.
Yeah, we can't do that.
No, but maybe we can set up some games online, sensible soccer tournament or something. I know Triangle Face is working on stuff. That would be very, very cool. But yeah, on behalf of everyone, I just want to thank you again for being with us this evening. It's been brilliant hearing about your gaming history and also touching on your singing career as well. So thank you very, very much.
Legend.
Thank you
really
to everyone participating in the chat as well tonight. We've had some really good friends. 16 Bits and Bobs, Essex Retro Gamer. Check out their channels. Mean Machine Dean as well. There's too many to mention you all, but do look back through the chat and you'll come across some really good YouTubers and Twitchers as well, as I like to call them. So yeah, thank you everyone. I'll be here with Triangle Face and possibly Dorbs tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So we'll see you then. And we're back on Tuesday night with our next guest, who's going to be Cabbage Face Bricks, who's a Lego YouTuber who's also into retro games. So we'll be chatting to him. So until then, thank you everyone, and good night. Thank you.
Good night. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.